Hello, my name is William Dunkel, and I'm a PhD student in the Informatics Department at the University of California, Irvine. To start, I would like to thank Dr. Cedar Bauseji for organizing this panel. It has been a thrill to be a part of such an interesting collection of people discussing the content and culture industries of Korea. The theme of this year's AAS in Asia is Asia on the Rise. Therefore, to approach that topic, I submit my project entitled Development in the Korean Creative Content Agency, K-pop vs. K-games. The goal of this project is to provide some initial research onto how there are multiple trajectories that the Korean culture industries face themselves with, some of which indicate a rise, whereas others might indicate a decline. We see here a sold-out stadium filled with the adoring fans of the K-pop idol group BTS. This May, BTS kicked off its sold-out stadium tour in Los Angeles, around the same time as the World Health Organization was finalizing its 11th revision of the International Classification of Disease, in which they classified certain types of gaming as a mental health disorder. This is indicative of the two different trajectories that the Korean culture industries find themselves at this time. K-pop is rapidly gaining wider acceptance at the time that moral panics are enveloping the game industry, not only in Korea, but worldwide. My interest in this project stems from conversations I was having with Korean video game developers in Seoul with regards to how they perceived their own labor. Specifically, when asked about how they viewed games as operating within Hallyu industry, they didn't feel that their work was representative of Korean culture. Rather, they felt that their labor was more similar to those of manufacturers, as opposed to the labor of artists. That led me to wonder, why is that? Why is it that games fall outside of the concept of culture industries? And why specifically are Korean games somehow not viewed as a part of Hallyu? This flies in the face of how successful and influential the Korean games industry is, not only economically, which it is supremely successful, indicated here, but also how the game industry is able to influence and drive innovation across the industry worldwide. What I hope to explain today is the initial findings of this research, looking at the history of the KOCCA with particular focus on the game industry, as well as to how they are organizing the games industry, and what it is in particular that games can do in the future to better demonstrate their importance as part of these cultures. When you go to the webpage of the KOCCA and look at their mission statement, you see it listed as realizing the people-centric content industry of fairness, coexistence, communication, and sympathy. This context of people-centric is most easily evident in other content industries, and is the main hurdle that game industries need to overcome. While other industries, namely pop music, film, or television, can rely on human capital to be the face of its industry, idols, directors, and actors being able to step forward into the limelight and thus demonstrate their people-centric organization, games do not always have the same opportunities. While indie games are games that are developed by teams as small as a single individual, most game development requires the organization of a dispersed and varied skill selection of people, from animators to programmers to composers and artists, which is to say nothing of the marketing and business-facing departments that are typically required to produce a successful game. The end product of a game, like all culture industries, is the result of coordinated labor of humans. However, its appearance is often, due to its digital nature, removed from the physical realm of other industries. Essentially, the work of games becomes black-boxed, with its human components being obscured, erased, or ignored. While it would appear that animation industry should suffer from the same lack of identity as games, the character and narrative-based outcomes, seen here with Pororo and Lava, at least provide a mascot that can act as a ventriloquist for the labor. The KOCCA, or the Creative Content Agency, was founded in 2001 to boost the growth of culture industries and their exports. currently operating 8 branches worldwide, with the primary focus being on China and Japan, the US and UK closely following behind. In 2009, Kaka absorbed the Korean Game Industry Agency, which put under its auspices the full control of Korean governmental agency and support apparatuses. This was followed by the creation of the Korean Game Development Hub. The key functions of the Korean Game Development Hub include incubation, management of the Game Academy, which is an educational institute providing courses about game development, showcasing Korean games. This has been done in a variety of different settings, most notably the Korea Game Conference, and organizing G-Star, which is an international games exhibition which provides a space for game demonstration, not only for Korean games, but also internationally developed games as well. Initiating the World Cyber Games back in 2001, which was and is the largest esports competition. Supporting localization for Korean game titles. Holding various domestic competitions, which include both gameplay and development competitions. Holding game camps in select countries. Lastly, the game development has been involved in hosting game jams, which are development events where individuals work together to create and rapidly prototype a game, typically over a period of a few days or a weekend. While Kaka has demonstrated considerable financial and organizational support for the game industry, which has helped launch the Korean games industry into being the 4th largest industry in the world, behind China, Japan, and the US respectively, additionally being the 2nd largest mobile game industry, behind only Japan, they do have a patchy record when it comes to the various interactions with domestic issues. "Only gods can escape military service" is the quote from Florence Chi's research on the effects of military service on game development. In the 2000s, under the Kim Dae-jung government, the Music, Records, Video, and Game Act was enacted. This act was offered as an alternative to military service for servicemen who demonstrated exceptional skill in game development. Instead of standard service, these individuals were allowed to work at major game software studios such as NCSoft and Nexon, thus providing economic service to the country. While the path to alternative service demonstrates the potential for Korean game development as a whole, there have been several significant hiccups and missteps with regards to domestic law. The most notable of these is the Juvenile Protection Act of 2011, also known as the Cinderella Law. This law prohibited gameplay of youth under the age of 16 from the hours of midnight to 6 a.m. While this law was difficult to enforce, as youth were able to circumvent the law by using the ID numbers of an older sibling or parent as a way of demonstrating their appropriate age, the importance of the law was not so much in its efficacy in curtailing gameplay, but instead, it's more important in the positionality that surrounded games following the enactment of it. Effectively, in equating gameplay with deviant behavior, placed the games industry in a position where they needed to justify its moral qualities to a scared domestic population. Other examples of the oftentimes adversarial position that games find themselves in the Korean context is the rewarding of no military service for individuals of prodigious skill. Following winning gold for the Korean national soccer team at the 2018 Asia Games, Son Heung-min was able to avoid military duty by winning a gold medal at the Games. However, problematically, esports athletes who also won gold at the same competition were not given the same reward and were still required to perform active military service. Lastly, we have the most recent decision by the WHO with their classifications of games as a potential health disorder. This is a decision that has been largely rejected by the games industry itself, as well as Kaka. However, the Ministry of Health has not rejected the decision, thus providing an ambiguous footing for the industry as a whole. The lack of unity with regards to the role that games are viewed as a function of society, both the economic value they add, as well as the ludic and cultural importance they have for society, places uncertainty on the role that games will serve in the future. This scenario might be best captured in this quote by Hwang Sung-ik, president of the Korean Mobile Game Association. Korea's game industry is weighed down by government regulations, which have been undermining the competitiveness of local developers. Returning to the issue of the lack of a figurehead or mascot in which games can demonstrate their people-centric vision for the industry, esports may provide the solution. Korean esports players are known throughout the world for their talent. Take, for example, the Overwatch League. The Overwatch League is the main esport for the game of Overwatch made by Blizzard Entertainment. Overwatch League grew out of the now defunct Apex, which was the Korean domestic esports league for Overwatch. Overwatch League recruited and paid Korean players to jump ship from Apex to the American domestic league, where they would go to make up over 50% of the professional player pool, with American, European, and other Asian players making up the remainder. As Korean esports players are increasingly becoming more influential, both to game fans and non-observers, if we look at the case of Kim Se-yeon, who goes by the player tag of Geguri, we can begin to see how Korean esports players are increasingly becoming more influential both to game fans as well as non-observers. Geguri currently is a member of the Shanghai Dragons in the aforementioned Overwatch League. She is the first female player to enter the highest division of esports. This has thrust her into a position similar to that of Jackie Robinson when he broke the color barrier in American Major League Baseball, where she has increasingly been viewed as a political figure. Amanda Cullen notes that Geguri is viewed as a post-feminist icon in Korea and abroad for her role in esports. This positionality, one which is denied by Geguri herself, already makes her a bannerman of sorts for feminist causes worldwide, not only those within Korea. Lee Sang-hyuk, aka Faker, is another example of a Korean esports player who has gained notoriety worldwide due to his skill. Currently, Faker is widely considered the greatest esports player in League of Legends, which is the most popular and profitable game currently being played worldwide. I want to return to the call Asia on the Rise with regards to the Korean game industry. While despite economic success and world notoriety for its games and players, Korean gaming still suffers from issues of credibility and authority. It is the mantle that many other culture industries have had to endure in their quest for legitimacy from film to television. All have encountered numerous roadblocks on the path to acceptance. This research is far from complete in analyzing how games can overcome the current moral panic and perceived downward trajectory for the industry. Yet even so, as Korean games such as PlayerUnknown's Battleground, developed by the Korean studio Bluehole, has gained worldwide popularity, briefly becoming the most popular game worldwide in 2017, before settling into the top 10, has been unable to capture the human-centric mission of Kaka. For now, it remains until the rise of a Mario-like mascot for the industry that K-games will have to suffer in the shadows of the more visibly human culture industries. Thank you.